Hi there, I am Heather Plett, and once again I'm talking to a wonderful guest about letting go of the ground. And today I welcome Chris Zydel. Chris is one of those people that just exudes spirit and warmth and creativity and all kinds of juicy things. And even in 140 character tweet, she seems to be able to put her personality into it. And so it doesn't take long for a person to be drawn in by that. And I was one of those people drawn in partly because she is just very gracious and generous with her response to people, and so I'm really excited to have her here. And she's been important part of my journey in the last probably year and a half online, and part of my community really. So, Chris, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather.
Yes, and so Chris, to start off with, I'm just going to ask you to share a story of some time when you personally had to go through a place where you had to let go of the ground.
Okay. And one of the things that I was really thinking about in relationship to this was you had talked about as you started this series, you interviewed yourself first. You were kind of like the first presentation, and you were talking about how with butterflies and caterpillars that butterflies only have to do it once. They only have to let go of the ground once. They only have to be dissolved into the chrysalis that one time. And for us human beings, we do it over and over and over again. So when you asked me that question, it was like, oh my God, there were so many different stories that came up for me about times that I've had to do that. It feels like it's this continual process. But the one that's jumping out right now, because we're talking right now, and I'm just going to go with the flow because that's what we're doing here,
Yes.
is I've been, I was a psychotherapist for a long time before I did the Creative Juices Arts work. And so I've been in the healing business and working with people and doing personal growth, kind of things for almost 30 years now. And I started out doing individual work with people, and then I moved into doing the group work and doing the intuitive painting classes and workshops. And I really loved working with the larger groups of people and the interactions that happen and the healing that happens in that process of creativity, but in creativity and community. I mean, that's the thing that was really, really what was juicy for me and what was most alive for me. So about 4 years ago, it became clear to me that the private practice part
Say
of
hi to
my...
my daughter Maddie. She just
Hi,
entered the
Maddie. Hi, sweetie.
room. That's okay, sweetie.
She's adorable.
Yeah.
Over the floor.
She's on spring break right now, so
Oh, really?
she's around the house.
I need to say hi to Mom. So anyway, about 4 years ago, it became clear that I really needed to move away from doing the private practice work as much as I was doing. And I was already in transition with it, but it was still about 40% of my business was doing the private practice work. And it just became clear that I was done. Not that I still do. I'm an astrologer also, so I do individual astrology readings. I mean, I have different things that I do. But the ongoing therapy work that I was doing, it was just, and I still loved it. And it's not that I don't love working with people. Of course I do. But I was just done with that piece of it. And I realized I needed to let it go. And I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified because I couldn't see what was the next step. And of course, it's money and it's survival. And it's the familiarity. It's the thing that I had done for so long. And I had an office, and I needed to let go of the office, and there were all of these different things. And so I can remember there's a really beautiful practice that I love that I learned from doing some shamanic work, which is when you're really in a place of a lot of confusion and distress. You go out to the earth and you just kind of lie on the earth and you just say, Mama, I don't know what to do next. So it's kind of like in letting go of the ground, going to ground, kind of a thing. Right. And I just remember crying and just saying, I am so scared. I am just really, really afraid to make this move. It's the thing where, can I really trust this? And so I did. I found the courage somehow, to do that. What started happening as synchronistically things will start to happen, is some of the clients that I was working with were done. They were like, okay, I think it's the end, and people were starting to leave, and I just stopped taking on new folks.
Mm-hmm.
And the practice started, dribbling away, and I was in that transition phase of feeling pretty unsure about what was going to happen. And then I was hounded by one of my students. I mean, literally hounded to start this teacher training program, the one that I'm doing now. And it was one of those things, again, that was another letting go of the ground, because it was terrifying. It was terrifying to think about putting myself in that kind of a position where I was actually going to be teaching people to do what I do. And it was a higher level of exposure for me. It was really asking people to pay me more money, which was also a really scary thing. And again, if she hadn't really been on me, saying, you need to do this, you need to do this, I probably wouldn't have really gone ahead with it. And so I did, and I created the program, and it's been an amazing success. And I'm making more money now than I ever have. I mean, so it was kind of that thing where, I listened to some part of me, to some part of my being that really knew what needed to happen, but it didn't tell me the whole story. It didn't lay everything out for me, which the intuition and the creativity goddess never does. She just gives you these commands,
Yeah.
do this now, and it's like, okay, are you sure? And
Yeah.
and and even though, I mean, this is what I do. This is what I do for a living. This is what I do for work. This is what I do in the intuitive painting process. This is, the work that I do is really about encouraging people to surrender. It's always about my own private practice, is always about, practicing surrender as much as possible. But every time it's scary, and every time I forget that it's really okay to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the stories that I have.
Mm-hmm. Are you ready to fly?